And so excited to talk about something that's on all of our minds now, right? It's AI. How do we use it in our work? How do we use it in our home life? And what is it going to mean for us moving forward? Everybody's got it on their phones, they're checking it out, having it answer questions, having it do work in some spaces, and there's some concern about what it's going to look like moving forward. That's why I am so excited to bring in our guest, Joe Sutherland from the Emory Center for AI Learning. And Joe, we're talking to you today about a report that caused some alarm. Can you first just talk to me about this report that came out and what the reactions have been?
Absolutely, and thanks for having me on. So there was a viral article that maybe hit 16, 17 million views last Monday, published by a firm called Citrini Research. And in this article, they essentially laid out the apocalyptic scenario. What happens if AI takes all the jobs? And what happens if the stock market can't support all those jobs being taken? Now, I think the fear is really real. A lot of folks around the state of Georgia that I've talked to on my statewide travels, I've actually visited about 24 cities across Georgia now, feel this anxiety. I hear from teachers, nurses, small business owners, and I also hear from a lot of CEOs relevant for the stock market. So anyone who dismisses this isn't paying attention. But the Citrini piece isn't really a forecast. It's more of a scary story dressed up in financial, serious language, and it modeled everything that AI could destroy without modeling anything that AI could create. And to me, that's like writing about the internet in 1996 and only covering the death of travel agents.
I like that analogy, but I do want to lean in more to what it could destroy, because how realistic do you think these dystopian scenarios are that were laid out in that article? Like, I read it and it freaked me out.
Well, I think that the fear is real. At the same time, these technologies decrease the cost of knowledge and intelligence. And I think what people don't realize is that these technologies are going to fundamentally introduce complexity to the workforce that we've never really seen before. For example, these technologies can take care of little teeny tasks that we may have never gotten to before. And as those tasks start to add up and you're forced to actually deal with them to increase the value to your client or your customer, just because everyone else is doing it too, you're going to need more people to go and manage the complexity that all those tasks introduce. A good example from my world, healthcare, higher ed, is radiology. Radiology, we used to send folks out for scans a little bit more rarely than we do today because radiologists were in a shortage and it was very expensive and hard to get these scans read. But with the help of these new technologies, not only in the scanning process, but now the diagnosis and evaluation process as well, the economics have changed. We actually screen more patients with imaging now than we ever before have, and radiologists are even in a greater shortage because they're forced to read across several subspecialties now. And so I see actually this creating a lot of demand for expertise.
That's a really cool take. What jobs and sectors do you think are going to be most impacted by AI?
I think that every sector from a white collar work perspective is going to be influenced somehow, but I think it's important to differentiate the idea of a job being taken by artificial intelligence from the idea of a task being taken by artificial intelligence. We actually think of jobs as bundles of tasks. So when AI is taking over certain types of tasks because they can be better automated or they're higher quality, whatever it might be, it doesn't necessarily replace the job. It just changes the role of the person in the job from one of maybe producing something to somebody who's managing something. And as we continue through the development of the use cases that we'll see over the next few years, I expect to see jobs change, but not necessarily be eliminated. I like to point out, actually, if you go back and look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics, their job role, they track who's employed by what industries over time in America. You'll actually find that the only job that's been eliminated over the past 67 or 70 years has been the job of elevator operator.
That is really interesting. So, a lot of this report was financial. So, in your opinion, could AI really trigger a market slowdown, or do you think those concerns are overblown?
No, I think that there's a few pieces here. So, three things kind of have to happen for AI to cause some sort of economic crash. Number one, the technology has to become way more capable than it is right now. I work with these technologies every day. I can tell you they are nowhere on par with the claims made in the Citrini article. They are not able of executing something more smartly than any possible person could execute, as they quoted. So I think they have to become way more capable, way faster for us to hit some sort of slump in the next few years. Number two, these technologies have to be adopted as well. You know, electricity took what, 70 years to roll out. The internet is still rolling out. There's 300,000 people here in the state of Georgia that don't have broadband access. And so adoption, no company is going to rip out their ERP, in a long weekend. It takes years just to get these things on the roadmap. And third, you actually have to assume that the government is incapable of reacting, which, if you look at so many responses on both sides of the aisle over the last few decades, even all the way back to the GI Bill, it's not something that the government in an election year, this article was about 2028, would ever really let fly.
And my last question is just if somebody is watching this, they feel nervous about AI or they're excited about AI, what's the best thing all of us can do right now to protect ourselves and make sure we're kind of hip to what's happening?
Well, I'm not worried about people losing their job per se. I'm actually worried that folks are not going to reskill themselves quickly enough. And so I invite all of you, all your viewers, to come and participate in our AI conference here at Emory University on March 27th. I actually am sad to report that we're sold out, but we are opening up a live stream to be able to share all the information that we're going to discuss on that day with as broad of an audience as possible. So come to that. I also encourage you to take advantage of our AI programs. We have a public outreach program called AI in U Georgia in partnership with the Rowan Foundation and the Georgia Chamber of Commerce. And we actually hit cities all over Georgia talking about these issues so people can get their questions answered. I'm happy to share more resources at AI.Humanity.Emory.edu if you're interested.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joe Sutherland with the Emory Center for AI Learning. Super interesting. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.